Okay, hi, welcome to Lynde House. My name is Patty, and I'm from the Costume People. We are a small business in Oshawa that we're anything Victorian, which means we do costume reproductions, we do seminars. We have a collection of Victorian clothing that starts from 1790 and goes up to 1920, which we're more than willing to bring one or two pieces to your venue to tell about the ladies who owned them in their lives during that time. Today we're going to do a seminar. We're actually going to do two seminars of pioneer Ragdolls. And these were dolls that all children had at the turn of the century. They were very easy to make and were made from anything that you have laying around the house. In this particular case we're going to talk about wool dolls and dolls that are actually made out of rags. So without further ado, we're going to build a rag doll. And this little rag doll here, she's called a wool rag doll, is named Miss Jill. So Jill is the kind of doll that they would have had in pioneer days. Was made from very simple things from your household. This particular case is a wool one. In a few minutes we're going to make another one that's very similar that's been made out of rags. So to make our little wool rag doll, what we need is a lot of wool. And we're going to make her body first, and all we're going to do is take a paperback and we're going to wrap your wool around your paperback approximately 100-125 times. So I've done just about 100 here now, so I'll just finish this up. Okay, so we have 125 wraps on our book, so we'll just clip it off. And this is going to be the body of our doll. So our first thing we're going to need to do is take a little bit of wool and run it through the back of your book, up through the top of your line of wool, and then we're going to tie it really tight, like so. That's just probably even better just to take it off the book. Oh, I wrapped it really tight. Okay, so now we have really tight tie on the top of it, and this, like I said, is going to be the body and the head of our little doll. So if you take your wool now, bring it down about an inch. You see, it's all nice and puffy here. This is going to be the head of your doll at the top. I'm going to take another piece of wool and we're going to wrap it around her neck. And we're going to tie it. We're going to do her good and tight. So now we have your doll head. And if you look here, so the next thing we need to do is we have her body. We need to make arms. You see her little arms here? And the way that we do that is we're going to wrap our wool on the short side of your book. And we're going to wrap it around your book about 25 times. So we've wrapped our wool around our book about 25 times. And this is going to give us enough to make her arm width. So we'll pull this off the book, like so. And then we're going to pinch it up just a little tiny bit and wrap our wool around. We're going to make her hands. So here's one hand on this side. Get in there. Okay. And then on the other side, we're going to do the same thing. We have another hand. Tie it up good and tight. Now we will make this so she doesn't have any weird little ratty ends. We're just going to clip and trim everything out of the middle here. So there's your arms. Now after the arms are done, we have to add this set of arms to the body. And we're going to take our body and we're going to split it in the middle. You see here? Okay, so we're going to have a little hole in there. We take the arms, we're going to put the arms through the middle of the doll. And then everything comes down really tight. See how tight I've got that? And we're going to tie her around the waist, like so. And I like to do a double tie because this is going to be a pretty tight waist. She's going to be very tiny. And wants to be stubborn on me today. There we go. So look at that. Isn't she cute? There's her little arms and her little head and her body. Now you notice here I've got all these pretty little ends here. You can leave it round like this, or you can trim it off like I have it trimmed off here. And I think just for now I'll leave her round until we get her quite finished up. Now, yeah, she's cute, but we need to make her cuter. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some hair. And the hair is the same wrapping that we did with this short end of the book. So I'll go off camera, do that, and we'll start back up in a second. So now I've wound more wool around the short end of the book 25 times, 25, 30, depends on how much hair you want her to have. I'm going to give her fairly full hair. So we're going to clip it off like we did just before. We're going to run some brown thread through the top. So we'll leave a good tail because we're going to use this piece of tail to tie it onto her head. I'll show you that in a second. So let's pull this off. And there's her hair. First thing we need to do is tie her hair so it doesn't go anywhere. And we want to make sure that when your knot is tied that it's going crossways like this. And I'll show you the reason for that in just a second. Right. So it doesn't look like much, but it's going to be hair in a couple seconds. Okay, so I've wound the thread, or the wool 25 times. We've pulled it off the book and I've tied it. We've left a little tail and we've threaded it with a darning needle because this little darning needle and tail is going to hold the hair onto your doll. So we're going to take your hair, you're going to lay it on your doll so that she looks cute. Then we're going to run the thread with the darning needle through your doll's head. And then we're going to tie it. So we've pulled the wool through the doll's head and we pulled the needle off. Then all we're going to do is just tie this together so that it's tying the hair onto the top of your doll. Now it looks kind of funny right now, but we're going to fix it in just a second. So now she has this weird little mop on her head that we have to fix. So we're going to manipulate the wool around a little bit so that it looks like she has nice hair on her head. So you notice you have a funny little loop at the back of her head. Using your fingers, just smooth it down as best you can until it gets close to her. See how it's framing her face and it looks nice now? Now we're going to take another piece of brown thread and we're going to just tie it around her head just lightly because this is going to keep her hair in place. And it's going to look like at the back she's got a little bun. And once I get this tied, I'll show you. She's tied, clipped. So there she has, oh, she's got funny little hairs hanging out here. Okay, so there's her hair on her front. And if you turn her around, like all Pioneer ladies, she has her hair tied back in a little bun. Now we have one more thing to do to our Miss Jill, and that would be to put an apron on. You see like we have the little apron here? So that step is exactly the same as we did before. You wrap your wool collar 25 times around your book, and we'll do that part next. So we're going to clip this off, just like we did before. Take another piece of wool, and we're going to run it through, just like before. I'm going to slip this off of the book. Then we're going to tie it again. Now you're going to need a good length of string because we're also going to use this string to tie. You see how it's tied around the top of the neck of the doll? That's how we're going to hold it onto her top of her body. Okay, let's give this a little shake. And actually, what we might even do is just clip these threads at the other end so that she has a nice even end for her apron. I'm just clipping them off. It's kind of like opening a pom-pom. There, now we take the tied threads and we arrange them around the top of her neck like this. And you can tie your string over or under, it doesn't really matter. It's all it's doing is holding it, her apron to her body. And it looks like she's got a pretty colored ribbon on her hair. So then we take this apron bit here and we just spread it out a little bit, make it nice and even. And then we take our other piece of apron string and we tie it around her waist. I'm just going to put her down here. And we don't want to do this too tight, but tight enough so that we know that she has a waist. And there's her apron strings hanging down. And we'll arrange her apron so it's nice and pretty. And there we have Jill the wool doll. Isn't she cute? So for our next project, we're going to do a rag doll. And this is one of the very first, earliest rag dolls that were ever made. There's examples of rag dolls made exactly like this that have been found in tombs 2,300 years ago. So they're pretty old. So they're very easy to do and they're very similar to our little wool doll. Simple materials. We need a piece of cotton that is 12 by 17 inches. And you can just rip these, doesn't matter, doesn't have to be neat and tidy. So 12 by 17, 24 by 24. This part's going to be the body, this is going to be the arms. Then we need another piece, about 2 inches by 6 inches, and that's going to be her bonnet. And then we need another piece, about 6 by 8, and this is going to be her apron. And then we're going to need something to tie it up with. I use pretty picot ribbon. You can use string, you can use binder twine, whatever you happen to have on hand. So to make her arms, first off, you notice that I've cut little clips in the fabric about every inch, inch and a half. We're going to literally tear this into strips. So we need our fabric wrong side to wrong side together. You're not going to see the wrong side of your fabric. It just makes it look nicer. So I'm going to make a lot of noise and I'm going to start ripping. So we'll come back to the camera in just a couple minutes. All right, and we're going to finish the last couple rips. And now, basically like the yarn doll, this is going to be her arms. So we're going to take our tie, and I'm just going to cut a little slip off here. And we're going to wrap it around the edge, and this is going to be her hands, and this is going to be her arms. We'll tie this end. Nice and tight, so we don't want them to come undone. And then we're going to go around to the other side and do the exact same thing. Worry about all these ratty ends right yet. I'll cut them off in a sec. To wrap her around again. Really tight. Okay. And just give it a little twist. Just it makes the arms look a little better. And we're going to cut all these little ratty ends off, so she looks a little neater. So we'll just set this aside. Now the next part we need to do is to make her body. And we're going to do basically the same thing. We're going to take our 24-inch square and we're going to have it wrong side to wrong side. And we're going to start ripping. So if you just bear with me for a couple minutes, away we go. So now we've finished doing all our rips. So that's a lot of rags. Now, like the wool doll, we have to give her a nice head. Now it kind of looks kind of like that. So we're going to take some of the longer pieces of thread or the wider pieces of fabric, and we're just going to wrap it around so that it looks like her head's a little smoother. Now if you want to get really fancy, you can take a little bit of cotton batting or a little bit of scrap wool, whatever you have around, and just make it so that her head, see how her head's a little formed now? It kind of looks like a head, but not close enough. So we have to give her her neck. We're going to tie that. With the head, you don't have to make it look perfect because we're going to put a bonnet on her at the end of this, and then it covers up most of it. But if you're a little on the perfectionist side, guilty as charged, you may want to make sure she's smooth. So there's her head. So the next part is we need to put her arms back in her, and the way we do that, just like the wool, you split it in half. Split her body in half, and this can be a bit of a, alright, so we have her split in half. We're going to take her arms, we're going to slip her arms right in through the middle of the body, and we're going to bring those arms up as tight as we can up to her neck. See how good and tight that is. She looks rather surprised that she's got arms now. Then I'm going to tie her around the waist, just like we did before. And this little lady is going to have a smaller waist, so she doesn't look as full as the other one. But I use the exact same fabric, so it's just a matter of playing around with the fabric and getting it to do what you want it to do. So we can stop there, and there's our finished Miss Lisa, but we're going to make her a little better, not one to have a boring doll. So let's give her a bonnet. You take the 3" by 6" fabric that you have and just fold it in half. So we're going to make the edge nice and neat and tidy, and we're going to drape it across her head, like so. And then we have to hold her bonnet on, of course, so we'll take another one of the pieces of string, and we'll just tie it around her neck and give her a little bow, and then she has a bonnet. Let's see if I can do a bow upside down. Let's try it this way. There. So we have her little bonnet. We'll just adjust it so she looks nice. Now the one last piece, she's got a bonnet, she might as well have an apron. And that's really easy to do. You take your last piece of fabric, and I just used an old piece of lace that I had laying around, and you cut it in your 6 by 8 piece. Just to make it neat and tidy, I usually fold it down just a little bit at the top. Then we're going to pinch it. You know how you make box pleats? And you pinch it, you pinch it, you pinch it, like so. Then we're going to lay it on the front of your doll, like so. And take our other piece of string, and we're going to tie it. So there's nothing holding it to her front, it's just across her waist. And we have a lovely little apron. We'll give her a little bit of zhuzh and tie it on the side. And then we'll adjust the top of her apron. Make her apron out really pretty. And there we have Miss Lisa, all done up. She's another really cute one.